So I'll prime it again. And now I'll speak into the mic. Hello. And we have to wait a couple of seconds now for the sound wave to come up. There it is. Hello. 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 Hello, dear.
1979, the Fairlight CMI. It's considered as the first sampler. Samplers aren't a new idea. They've been around for almost 50 years now. So why am I interested in this new Electron product? Well, I'm going to take you on a little walk on this concept, right? So the idea of a sampler is an old idea which progressed into things like the EMU emulator and such. The idea that you could sample a note and spread it across keys and then eventually sample more notes to get more accurate stretching of the sample. It's an old concept. It's been around for a long time, and it is kind of the hallmark of what is referred to as a professional sampler. If you're not into if you are into samplers, please go check out the Daydream Sound. He does incredible content around samplers, and he has an incredible community, and his channel is like my idol channel. You know, I love these live stream chats he does where he just talks about gear. I wish I could speak that clearly and have that sort of a community that I could do these live, like almost like a radio show based on gear. That's like a dream of mine, because really I just love it and love talking about it. So Electron is a big name in the gear world. Some people would put them up at the top. I have not owned any Electron gear. I've been tempted quite a bit of times. I've spent some time using the Analog 4. I've used the Model Cycles, and I've played with the Digitac. Everything they do kind of feels like I almost am ready to make the jump. The thing that keeps me from it is also the thing that people love about it, and that's the sequencer. The sequencer, while it's incredible, it to me feels like setting up dominoes. The interface is good, but it's not that live knob per function interface that I love and get from things like the Electribe and other synths. So I've always kind of been standoffish on it. So why, out of all their releases, this one that's probably got the least amount of hype and nobody's really interested in and might lack originality, it's the one that made me take the jump into Electron world? Well, it's simple. I have quite a large studio full of things, from toys to oddities to collectibles to, you know, workhorses and heavy artillery. And the heavy artillery to me is like my Yamaha A5000 rack mount professional sampler. And if that ain't a professional sampler, I don't know what is. The A5000 was the pinnacle of hardware samplers. I don't know of any hardware samplers that were released after that, that point in time. You could argue that, like, another company was doing something better at that time, but that's one of the final hardware samplers, the final evolution from the company Yamaha. I believe it's got 126 note polyphony, so meaning you can play 126 notes at the same time, spread across up to 64 timbres, meaning that you could have 64 different sounds playing, and you could play each sound twice at the same time if you wanted to. Mine's fully expanded, so it's got, upgraded memory and all the outputs and all that, so you got multiple outs. It also has, I believe, 6 effects blocks that are routable, along with the 2 inputs for, real-time inputting of audio. So it's a pretty powerful sampler. And I have more than just that as far as it goes to professional samplers. And while I do enjoy, sort of a nostalgic retro workflow, it's slow. It's from, I believe, someplace in the early 2000s, and even then it's slow by today's standards. And that can be frustrating to work with. And so because it's not, because it's slow and it's just not that fun to work with, I tend to not use it very much. And so it's collecting dust. So when I saw this thing, I thought, hey, I could really condense down my studio. Daydream Sound always talks about how there's no market for pro-level samplers and we'll never see another pro-level sampler. And he definitely heralds the flagships of back in the day that like nobody is matching that. And to a point, I agree. There's nothing in this Tonverk that is revolutionary, which is probably why there's no excitement about it, but I'm interested. My first like pro level or like setup that I was able to complete songs on was a Yamaha RM1X sequencer and rompler, or basic sort of synthesizer drum machine in there. And then I had a Yamaha A5000 rack mount sampler and a Roland SP404, the original. This was my first setup, and it really covered all the bases. You had a really powerful sequencer in the RM1X, you had a really powerful sampler in the Yamaha Yamaha A3000, along with some really good effects, and then you had the little quick effects box with the SP404 for one-shots and effects. Was a really good setup, and over time that had grown a bit, and I've used different things since then, and to where it is now, it's quite the collection. I have what I call the Trinity. I have all the Yamaha rack mount samplers, which is far more power than I ever need, and so I'm thinking of reducing it down. But also, can I take a moment here to acknowledge the similarities between the Electron design philosophy and the Yamaha RM1X? I'd have to check the dates on when they came out, but I'd almost say the Yamaha influenced Electron and, that same setup. And where you have your control knot parameters on the top right, and then you can page through different pages as to what they control. Yeah, the RM1X came out in 1999, where the Electron machine drum, which is the first iteration of that sort of workflow, came out in 2001. Also kind of shocking that I know it's aesthetic choice that the whole Electron with the pixelated displays, but also like that RM1X, that display is not only larger, it's basically like almost the same quality. To sort of break it down a little more, my thought process is I will sell the majority of my samplers, I will sell the majority of my sequencers, and I can even sell, even though I don't know what I would get rid of, but I could sell a lot of effects units as well, because this really does those three things well, and so it'd be a good way to condense down a lot of my studio, and that's the plan. Now, I originally started this channel because I wanted to dive deep on Roland Zen Core, particularly on the MC101 and the MC707. And as you might see, I haven't really done any content on those devices because it's deep and frustrating the way that Roland sets it up. Zen Core is an incredible piece of software technology or whatever, and I would even argue that the MC707 is a more advanced device than this Tonverk. I think it's one of the most incredible devices on the market, but the workflow and the interface is kind of terrible in my opinion. Like, just off the rip, you can't save a patch without using some sort of an external editor, and that's very frustrating. You can't, make a great synth and save it and then use it in multiple projects. I mean, projects you can, but just not. It's set up backwards, so you're going to be copying the part from another project as your, patch bank or whatever. And I've dealt with frustrating setups and limitations before, so it's like nothing. But like to see a device that's kind of like made to do what I want to do, I'm kind of like, you know what? Let me just, instead of fighting with technology, let me just get something that's going to help make my life easier. So that's the story of why this is going to be my first Electron box. Now, it's not guaranteed. I've bought and returned products in the past. So I'm gonna put it through its paces. I'm gonna try to document it and share it here. And if it's not, capable of being a replacement for these devices, then it's got to go. So it's a kind of a low standard. Essentially, I'm competing it against the MC707. Basically, if it's better than a 707, then it'll stay. And if it's not, it's got to go. And obviously, like the sequencer, okay, more advanced than the 707. Not even a competition there. The effects probably are better. Not really competition there. The I/O MC707 may have it beat. It really is going to come down to the sampling engine. That's going to be the real test.